Hello and welcome back to the Car Guy Coffee Podcast, where we are brewing solutions for car guys and car gals that are trying to upshift and uplift in automotive today. This brew has been brought to you by our friends at VINCUE, 321 Ignition, Dealership Toolkit, M1 Data and Analytics, NavThat, Beyond Mobile First. If you want more information about how to support the brew, or you need more brews, go to carguycoffee.com. Let's brew!
Car guys and car gals. This is not the first time he's been to the show, but this is the first time we've done a five-liner.
This is our first full show with him. We've had the pleasure to meet him before and have him in our show. But the one, the only, Danny Zaslavsky! What's up, brother? Good morning.
There we go.
Good morning.
Deal.
So you guys know he's been on the show before. He knows the deal. We've done it with him and his crew, Car Guy Coffee.
He's got a mug to prove it.
Man, I'm going to tell you something, Danny. We're appreciative. There's the word. Appreciative of you being here this morning. I'm also appreciative of your team. You have some amazing people out there, and I'm sure we'll go and we'll talk about them some. But, man, it's an honor to work with you. It's an honor to be teamed up with you, and it's an honor to have you on the show this morning. Man, you're a superstar, dude. And it's not that you're on the rise. You've already risen. You're just going to keep going. And I love where you're going right now, and I love the passion, like I said, behind your product. So welcome to the show, Danny.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. What are you still doing in Vegas?
RVDA convention.
Yeah,
I love it.
We're here for
it's like a second home for us now, isn't it?
It really is, and I know it has been for you. You know, this is our third time in the last 4 weeks, so it's quite a bit. But it's been fun. So this time we're at the Paris, and Paris is pretty nice, not too shabby. Last week was the Venetian. Love the Venetian. Danny, if you haven't stayed there before, it's beautiful. You would love it too, man. You'd be like, oh, I love the Venetian. It's dope.
Okay.
But, man, we had a great time. We've been having good times running into people like you. And right now we're at RVDA. And RVDA, there's a lot of great RV people here, which is mind-blowing. And it's a really unique world. Slightly different, but very similar. A lot of car guys and car gals have come over from automotive into RV and became superstars, right? So there's no doubt in my mind that it translates all the way around what we do. That's why it's a beautiful thing that we talk about what we talk about. But, man, Danny, we're excited to have you here today. And,
Thank you guys.
In your product, VINCUE, come on now. That's it's one of the hottest things out there in the market right now. If your inventory issues are out there, it is the hottest thing in the market. So, guys, you guys need to listen to the show. I'm ready to explain this stuff, but I'm really excited to talk about you, Danny. I'm to talk about what drives you, what makes you motivated. You know, we do the Forgive, Focus, Fly before we do every show, so I want to go ahead and do that really quick.
He already started it off. He came in with the
Forgive, Focus, Fly. But, you know,
right?
we're going to do it one more time together as a team so we can get this thing rolling so this doesn't feel so like I forgot to do something.
Right? It feels like, man, you didn't put first things first, folks. And so to make sure that we do put first things first, let's go ahead and make sure that we do wipe the weight off of unforgiveness. We focus on what it is that we can do and want to get done today. And we go ahead, stretch out in faith, and we fly so that we can keep growing together. So help us out right now with the one, the only, Danny Zaslavsky, right here on this five-liner of Car Guy Coffee Podcast. Let's brew. 1, 2, 3. Forgive.
Focus.
Fly.
And keep growing. That's what you do every single day, Danny. That's why I love you, man. And that's why you are a solutionary that we want to have in the studio today to share with our audience, man, because there's nothing better than having somebody who's all about growth. And it's not just personal growth. It's your business growth. It's your community growth. And it's industry growth.
Yes.
And you're doing this for everyone. Like this tool he has, you know, like I said, we're going to get into it, VINCUE, folks. I'm going to keep bringing that name up. If you don't know, you will know by the end of the show. But I'm telling you that the product it's beautiful. It was designed initially for him. He was trying to come up with a product that was different, that was like more streamlined for a dealer. And that's what I love about it. It's the view of a dealer working on something for a dealer. How great is that, right? And when he does that, it's for us, by us, for you, right? And it's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad that we're doing it. But, man, let's talk about this first question, man. All these things that you've been doing, you run a successful store. You're the dealer principal, the general manager of Country Hills, man, and you guys do a really good job out there killing the market as a independent group, right? Then you started VINCUE, which is huge. But as you were doing all these things, what drives you to do this? What drives you to be the best thing that you could possibly be, to be the best version of Danny, right? So what is your why?
So I learned early on that you can only run so fast. And there's a quote that I shared with you guys last time, pain pushes and vision pulls. And this is something that's stuck with me for a long time. And I'll speak to me, but I know that others will relate with this. Pain shows up in a lot of different ways. It shows up sometimes in family relationships, sometimes in your relationship with your husband, wife, partner, and so forth. It shows up in your work. It shows up in your friendships, and hopefully you work to find a vision for how you want those relationships to exist, and you work to better yourself in order to better others. Right? What do they say? Put your own mask on first before assisting others, and that's really the foundation of it. And I'm learning. I had a friend of mine that has been in the healing space for a really long time. She's a doctor, and she owns a really cool company called Your Wellness Connection. It's one building with 40 different practitioners, from MDs and DOs and psychologists and psychiatrists and all sorts. And so she helps everybody heal. But she told me something that has stuck with me my whole life. She said, I've been in this space for a very long time, and if you can just find how to be kind to people, the answer lives in that. And I think that is really powerful, because as we scale, whether it's Country Hill or VINCUE or whatever issue we're trying to solve, my goal isn't to run faster. I think my goal as a leader is to share the platform, is to share the experience, the human experience of growing and stretching and challenging, because that's what we're here to do, is to solve problems. And we all know that the problems never stop. You will always find opportunities to solve problems. The question is, how are you meeting those opportunities, and how is your character meeting those opportunities? How is your experience meeting those opportunities? And that's the culture that we work to have. And what I feel super lucky about, and maybe we'll get into this later, but at Country Hill Motors, I grew up having a direct effect with the customers that either came through the door or eventually through the internet. And so the effect was right here in Kansas City, right here in this community. And I always felt like I want to have a bigger effect. I want to have a greater effect. And early on, marketing was what I was most attracted to. And especially in like the late 80s, early 90s and so forth. And I was like, why do I like marketing so much? Well, I later figured out that marketing was the only place that technology existed in the car business. Right, like syndication, process, data, all that stuff that lived in marketing. And later I learned, okay, maybe I don't like marketing as much as I thought I did, but I really like technology. I really like scale. I really like process. And so when I joined VINCUE with my business partner, Chris Hoke, he had the beginnings of something really amazing. And it was a foundation that I always wanted, which was to unify these spaces within the auto industry of inventory management and syndication and market pricing, and then take all those really cool data points and turn them upside down to think about acquisition, so that you have a complete life cycle of inventory at your fingertips. So you're not working on disparate systems. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is a much bigger playground. We have the opportunity to bring together what Corey Mosley calls the coalition of the willing, people who believe in your why, and you can start sharing that and learning from it and adapting, and then also growing it.
Beautiful. I love it.
Man,
you can tell this guy's the speaker, can you? I mean,
there's no doubt. He's very thoughtful with his thoughts, but I think that he understands his why.
Yes,
he's been driven by it for so long that he understands where he's going with it, and how it actually affects the culture around you, the team around you. I love that you brought up your business partner, and that's pretty cool. And I think that it's neat to be able to team up with people that have very great ideas, and then you can put diversity in that, right? A different view, and then you can even fine tune it better. And I know you're not one to just sit there in your laurels and hope that this product just is perfect for the next 20 years. You're always going to be evolving, and that's just who you are. You're going to always be looking for a way to make it better. Not that it's bad, and I'm not trying to say that. What I'm telling you is that everything evolves. You have to always be ready for whatever that little difference is, what people are looking to have, and you guys do that so well. The product is beautiful, folks. Visually, if you get a chance to have a demo with Danny or his team, you'll see what we mean. The the visual aspect of it all is very pleasing to the eye. It makes the customer's eye wander to what you want it to wander to. Helps them be able to learn what it's like to sell a car in this market. So it's educational, it's informational, and man, it's really, really, really good when it comes to helping you get vehicles on your lot that you don't have to pay fees for, like the auctions. We can talk about your product forever, man. I know we can, and we're going to, but man, that could be another 2-hour show. And that's the one thing I love about it. If you guys are interested, towards the end of the show, just make sure you reach out to Lou or I. Fred at carguycoffee.com, Lou at carguycoffee.com. We'll get you set up with a demo. And man, their team, so fun. There's not a person that we haven't set up with Danny's team that didn't come out of it and go, man, I had a great time talking to them. They're just good people. They really care about what I want and how I want it done. Facts. Great team. Leaders all over the place, and every single one of them lead with love. He mentioned that earlier, going out there and caring about what you do, and he does that. He does that with his team. He does that with everybody. Now, don't get me wrong. There's accountability and there's work involved, but he does all those things. But that is all involved in that why that he has. I love that, man. Great answer.
That's great, and it's real. And folks, it's the genuine relationship that people have with the people that they're around and the people that they're doing business with that ultimately starts to brew out the good stuff. It starts to bring out the best in everybody. If you have people that are working with you that feel as though they're protected and they're loved on and they're given room to grow and become the best version of them, well, great. They are activated, right? Those people are unstoppable and they can do anything. And if they have the support of somebody behind them saying, go, believe, dream, then every interaction that they have is going to end up having great comments, people saying great things about them. And that's why anytime that somebody jumps on a Dumbo with you, it's just like hanging out with a couple of crazy car guys and getting that invigorating energy to make you want to go after your business, right? Because ultimately, you're only empowering other dealers to do other great things when it leaves your store, right? You've mastered selling and helping people inside of your community. You've faced giants right across the street from you, and you have found a way to step up and to challenge them, but not just for the sake of challenging them, but to take you to the next level and those around you and the legacy of your dealership. But speaking of the legacy of your dealership, because this is one of the things that we love most about you, is that, again, this is a car guy, for car guy, by car guys, and you're bringing solutions to other car guys and gals. But what is it that has actually kept you in the car business? This is a legacy dealer, folks, right? Not everybody gets to stay in the business. Some people run from it, you know what I mean? Like the Dickens, they're out. They're, you know what, I've seen that. I don't want anything to do with that. Yeah. But you've taken it on, and now you're taking it to the next level. So
he started when he was 14 years old. 14. You said your dad acquired this 14 years old. I remember this on the last interview. He was about 14 years old, and you got put into the automotive industry. Your family jumped into it. So from 14 on, what made you say, you know what, this is what I want to do? Keep this.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to something you said earlier, and it was talking about the product. But I think behind any good product is a mission, and at some point, people either represent the product or they represent the mission of the product. And I can tell you wholeheartedly, I represent the mission. I don't think about VINCUE, the brand. I think about the mission that we're on, and that is you call it the why, call it whatever you want. But it's and that mission continues to grow and evolve as new opportunities open themselves up, either through problems that your partners have, or whether through the opportunity to see kind of into the future once you're kind of in it. So with Country Hill, my dad, this is kind of where it comes from. So my parents are immigrants. They came from Ukraine in '79. I was born in '83, so I'm 38 years old. But we're Russian at that point, Ukrainian. It used to be Soviet Union, and I'm also Jewish. And there was a ton of persecution in Ukraine at the time. It still is some, but not as much as there was. And so there was an opportunity for anybody of Jewish faith to leave the country. But it was hard because the Soviet Union government at the time were letting people leave, but the question is, where were they going to go, right? And so my parents moved to Italy and lived there for a year and waited to get sponsored by a family to move to the United States. And so some of my family ended up in Kansas City because a guy named Art sponsored us to the local Jewish community center to move here, and some of my family ended up in Chicago and California, and then we got here and kind of started with nothing. My dad started a shoe repair business when I was a kid. I grew up in that. My grandmother was a tailor, started a tailor business, and my grandfather went to work for a factory. So we were all in it. But what's interesting is they had all these really amazing disciplines when they were in Ukraine. My grandfather was an engineer. My grandmother had medical experience. So there was all this really cool talent that they were bringing it over that they couldn't use immediately. But what they saw was a ton of opportunity. And I don't think that's unique. I think that's very common with any time you take yourself into a space of all this action, all this opportunity, you essentially want to be a part of it, right? And that's what my parents wanted to do, is they wanted to be a part of this opportunity. And so the way we got into the car business, believe it or not, was there was a very small dealership at the top of the street called Johnson Drive, and at the bottom of Johnson Drive was my dad's shoe repair business. And one day my dad walked up the street and met this guy named Josh, who at the time had like 9 cars on the lot, and ended up buying a car from Josh, and then said, "Hey, can I work here part-time?" and started selling cars. And then at some point said, "Hey, I think we can scale this." So he joined up with Josh, and they built the business. And I joined when I was 14 years old, working I was a porter for a long time, and then I figured out that I sucked as a mechanic and cause it wasn't what I wanted to do. But then started, selling cars at 14 and 15, really to challenge, and that comes from kind of how I'm wired, is I always wanted to prove that I could do it, that I could learn, that I could grow. And something personal to me too is, I'm also gay. So there's, at the time, there was, not the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion conversations and opportunities that exist today. So I felt like I had to hide and protect this big part of me that I didn't share at the time. So it taught me a lot. But then once I was able to grow it, and I was very lucky in that my parents were incredibly accepting, but I didn't come out to them until I was in my early 20s. And I had a relationship prior to coming out, and I remember that relationship ending and being heartbroken, but I had to be heartbroken in silence. I couldn't be heartbroken out loud. And I remember thinking, gosh, I don't want that for anybody. So there's so many lessons in just being human and having a human experience that now serve me today as a business owner, because I know that if I just have the same people around the table, we're going to have the same ideas and we're really not going to grow. So diversity is so incredibly important in your family and your friendships and your business and in your life, because there's a difference between debate and arguing. You can disagree and still smile and still be kind and all those kinds of things. Actually, I have twin 8-year-old boys that we were talking about that this morning. One of my kids in the back of the car goes, "Do you like Biden or Trump?" And that brought us that, I know, right? 8-year-old. And that brought me into the conversation of you can disagree. And you can still be kind. And I think, I remember an earlier version of me was, thinking, well, shoot, if I disagree, then I have to be mean or I have to be whatever. And that's not the case. Like that's the whole point is to stretch. So all that brings me to, that was preparation. That was the pullback of the arrow, if that makes sense. That gave me the opportunity to really, be on the trajectory that our team is on today and have the concreted mission that we have. And that mission, by the way, is to unify the solutions that exist in the car business today so that, it's not, so that we can have the full life cycle of the car from acquisition and have all the insights, because new opportunities come into the market all the time for either acquisition or sale. But we want to be able to see what's the best strategy for us. And same with having the right insights for when you're merchandising the car, and same with having the right insights for when you're selling the car, and having all the people within our team focused on the same direction. So I'm going to actually paint a visual for a second. So this really opened my eyes. I'm at Country Hill right now, which, by the way, I'm going to stand up and give you guys a quick tour.
Let's get a tour of the beautiful store. Let's go.
So they can't hear you because you're in my ear.
Right.
But
Look at that.
Paul, you want to wave? What's up? This is Darren right here. He's on the phone buying a car, I'm sure. He's our vehicle buying center manager. And so here's our tower.
Great. Wow.
And then we've got about 200 cars parked out there, stacked full. And then this is our vehicle buying center. So,
hello, vehicle buying. They're busy away getting it down. Let's go.
Yeah.
I love that.
The visual that somebody painted for me a long time ago was, imagine a big arrow, right? And that big arrow represents your company, and so all the leaders of the company are saying, we're going that way, right? That's the big arrow. And then you have all these smaller arrows within the company, and those are all the people in the company. And sometimes all those arrows aren't pointed in the same direction. They're all going right? And then what ends up happening? There's no movement. And so that happens in technology a bunch when when we use disparate systems to get insights that end up making, that shape our behavior. Like, what are we going to do, right? From merchandising, for inventory management, whatever. And we learned that when we can bring all that together and we can at least see what doesn't work and see what works and then work to make things better, then the solution is there. And so that's the mission is to bring systems together.
Man, that's amazing. And what's really cool is that, how you can almost pinpoint what strengthened you in life to get to where you're at today, to be able to have the core values, the ethics, it's a beautiful thing to see that, even talking about your sexuality, you're having to hide that. And you're right. During that time, during that era, I can imagine, how hard that would be, especially in automotive, right? It's hard enough being a woman, and to be a man who's hiding his sexuality, hiding yourself, hiding your true self. That must have been hard, and I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
the beautiful thing is that you're out there and you're proud now, and you're very much you're not using that. You're using that in your personal self to elevate yourself, the experiences of the past, to be able to say, hey, I want the future to be different. And you're going to carve out a new path to make sure that it is. And you do it with such class, man. The first time I met you, man, you're a sharp dress guy, for one. Let me just tell you. You dress extremely well, all the way from his glasses to his watch. When he sat down next to me over in Carolina, I was like, this dude's got it going on. He's really, I would trade his outfit for mine right now, right? So he definitely was looking great. But you carry yourself with such great class. Like when you walk in a room, you command the room. And I noticed that about you when you sat down. I was like, man, I got to get to know this guy. I just feel like he's somebody I should know. And it wasn't because, it's not even the fact that I thought you were important. It's just there was something inside you that comes out, that pours out of you. That's like, hey, this is a good person. This is somebody that has experience in life that can really have a great conversation with me. Just by the way your smile is, the way you walk in a room, the way your posture, your everything. So, man, it's good to hear that story. It's good we're very fortunate, and I'm so glad that you're in automotive, because your tool is fantastic. It's so needed, and it's great because you're talking about great things besides your tool. You're talking about being a leader, how to be a leader, how to make a team follow the same arrows, right? How to bring diversity in that. Because if you have everybody that looks the same, acts the same, and does all these things, then it's never going to grow. You're not moving. You're doing the same thing over and over and over. And no offense to all the conferences out there, but for the majority of the last couple of years that I've seen, it's the same speakers, like on the main stage. We got to start looking for some more diversity on that. You're starting to see it. You're starting to see more women on stage. You're starting to see this, but there's still not enough. We need newer speakers. I love all the speakers that we've seen, and I love you guys, and please don't take this the wrong way, but man, let's throw some people out there that are new. Somebody that's never and talk about what he's doing. But Danny brings more than just VINCUE, folks. He brings life. He just talked about diversity. He talks about all these things, inclusion, right? All this stuff needs to happen in the workplace. And there's people leading the way, and Danny's one of them. I'm excited. Once again, thank you for coming in automotive, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I know Lou probably wants to talk, so I'm going to let Lou talk. I keep going. Sorry.
Well, this is something that we want to make sure everybody can find the place of relatability inside of that story and inside of what keeps Danny flowing and what keeps him reaching into the future from some of the experiences of the past. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be in a place where you can't express yourself and your sexuality. I don't know what it's like to be in those, but I do know what it's like, and many other people know what it's like, to have yourself subdued, to have yourself be less than the full expression of yourself. And some people have to dumb that down a bit for others to feel comfortable. And sometimes it depends on the situation that you're in, of course, right? I understand that we tend to be loud, very exciting, energized people, and that doesn't always get everybody moving in the right direction right away. But what I do understand is that when leading people, I had to find a way. One, I had to find them. Find out what it was about them that I liked. Why do I have them around?
Exactly
Why
right.
do I hire them to our floor, right? And how do I unleash them to find out more about them and feel free to be that? If you are in a situation. Go ahead, bring it.
No, you just said something that I'm going to jump in right there, because that is what I know has brought me through tough situations where it's like I feel, as a 15-year-old selling cars, how do you get respect from either your clients or from your teammates? Because you're 15, what are you doing, right? And I had to prove it. But why did I prove it? It's because I knew my why. I didn't know my whole why. I still don't know my whole why. That is growing. That's evolving. That's dynamic. And so that's the thing that I share with team members is our mission is to always be curious about our why, and because that will pull you through any diversity, any ignorance, anybody else trying to keep you small so that they feel comfortable. That is really, really important. So I think that's our mission. And once you do that, you're in flow, and then you automatically surround yourself by people who align with you, and then you get to having a huge effect on the world.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, and pointing in that direction, right? And helping people stay focused on their why, right? Eventually, we all end up then aiming in the same direction. When you take on that person that's working with you and you say, I hear your why. I get your why. I'm glad that you brought up your why. Now we're looking at your why together. We're looking at the why of the company together. And we're all now facing in the same direction with a unified why, right? With a unified vision that then takes us to levels that we only dream of. And what's important is that there's mentors like you that are in there anchored to help everybody stay focused on that why, and so that they can go after what it is that they're supposed to go after. You leaders, take note on that. You that are wanting and aspiring to be leaders and be managers and to help other people go chasing their dreams. Remember, it's not because people are there to work for you. You're actually there to start working for more people. You're there to start driving their business to the next level. And that's what's so important for any manager to get, is a clear focus on the why of the person that you're leading. It'll make your relationships better, but it'll help everybody actually pull the very, very best out of them. Am I right, Fred?
Yes. And right. And not be afraid if they're not a fit.
Come on.
Help them move on to the next thing in a kind way, in a real way. There's been people here that it's hire slow and fire fast. There's moments where it's just not a fit. But you got to respect the rest of your team and protect the rest of your team when you're in that position.
Yeah, there's mentalities. One bad seed can really just rotten the whole fruit, right? And that's what makes it so crazy. So you have to be that way. And I love what we're talking about here. This is really dynamic stuff, and it's truth. It's the core. It's the core of what keeps a company growing. It's a core of what keeps a company constantly adapting to what's new, constantly in that growth mode, constantly having and learning how to be a good leader. You know, it takes experience. Not everybody just comes out and knows how to lead the first time they do it. Matter of fact, most don't. Most fail miserably, but that's okay as long as you learn from those things. And as we can see, Danny's learned from a lot of his life experiences, and we see those things. Along the way, you've met a lot of amazing people. You've been mentored. I know you talked about your father, and your father seems like a very, very motivated person. I love the story talking about that. You know, he went from owning a shop, going up, buying a car to, hey, let me sell cars to, hey, let's open a lot. You know, that takes vision. That takes ambition. That takes a lot of
it takes cojones.
I know that you have mentors in your life. Your father seems like one of them. You know, maybe that is the one that's really pushed you the most. But if you were to name one or two people, maybe more, doesn't matter, people who've influenced you to be the best version of Danny, who would those people be?
So I have a friend named Dan Nielsen who owns a really cool dynamic event company called Bishop McCann here in Kansas City. And he was one of the first guys that I could say was my mentor. In my early 20s, he decided to start the Mid-America LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And there was other chambers of commerce like it, but in our community, in that LGBT community, there wasn't a place for people to come together and share what they do 10 hours a day, which is work, right? And what are their skills and what are their abilities and how to be able to elevate those conversations. And so he asked me to be a board member. And at the time, I'd never served on any kind of board in my life. So I was like, I trusted him. And I trusted the mission. That was the first filters that I ran that through, right? Mm-hmm. And then I said, cool, I will learn the rest. And so I said yes, and that opportunity turned into me eventually becoming the president of it, and today has over 600 member businesses and over 100,000 members. So it's a really large. We have companies like Sprint and Garmin and Cerner and a lot of small companies who are part of this. And we work on issues like supplier diversity, and we work on issues like mentorship, and we have programs like masterminds and all sorts of stuff. And we have a board of 17 people, including, and I recently retired from the board, and the guy who took my seat is the former mayor of Kansas City. So you want to talk about starting with something small and growing it into this incredible organization. But I can't tell you how much I learned from that. And that started with one guy named Dan Nielsen, who gave me the opportunity to serve. And it's very different, motivating, igniting, and managing volunteers than it is employees, right? Their motivators are different. The way the conversations, you want to talk about being mission based, that is mission based, right? And sometimes there's great times and sometimes there are bad times, and especially running a nonprofit, the balance sheet looks very different than it does in a business, but it gave me that diversity of thought leadership to be able to understand better how to serve and how to help people and how to, again, be driven by the mission. So I retired from that about a year and a half ago, and I was a part of it for 7 years, and today it's continuing to grow and be incredible. But Dan told me something that I'll never forget. He said, think about your life as a boardroom, and who are the people that are sitting at that table? Because at that table, you may have somebody who will help you with your business. You may have somebody who will help you with your relationship. You may have somebody that will help you with family, or you may have somebody that will kick you in the butt when you need to be kicked in the butt. And look around that table. And sometimes you need to also ask somebody to leave that table and invite somebody else. And you can do it in a clean and clear and kind way. But that table is really important. And those people are really important. And so that's how I see my life. I protect my boardroom because those are the people who have influence over me, and therefore my effect on the world. And I have influence on them and their effect on the world. And I hold that in really high regard.
That's, folks, please, we're saying this, folks, a whole lot, right? We keep saying, folks. Listen, there's something that you went over there and you explained. And I don't know if we were in Clubhouse or something where we went over, hey, how do you figure out how to lead people, right? And at some point we started to get into this discussion of the importance of getting involved in your community
and working with volunteers and understanding the difference between providing purpose and motivation to someone's passions, not their pockets, right? So many times we try to anchor the motivation of people, especially in the auto industry, back to dollars and cents, where there's an entirely new generation that value different things than just dollars, right? They value time. I mean, again, there's a whole other generation that's coming behind us that have a different values than the ones that were instilled in us, the ones that we picked up. And we are the ones that have to adapt to how it is that they communicate. No different than a child, right? If the child isn't learning the subject, you find a tutor, you find a way for them to find the way that they learn.
Right.
And firing somebody in a nonprofit or in a volunteer capacity, right? That getting them off of your team because they're impeding the direction that we go in, right? You're dealing with personalities and, man, I'm a volunteer, nobody's paying me to be here for this. Again, those are different things that leaders find great skills in if they operate in both. You're running a business, find a way to be a leader or just involved inside of some volunteer. I don't care if it's a community project that's going on in your community, if it's something that's going on outside of your community, if it's in your church body, if it's inside of your school system, whatever it is, find a way to get involved with people that come to the table because they're passionate about what they're doing, not
exactly
just
right.
because of the product. And if they
Exactly
do that,
right.
man, it'll do worlds of difference for the business because you'll lead people differently. Well, I feel like letting the whore out over here. I don't know. Maybe it's Veterans Day.
Yeah,
Like
it is
that.
Veterans
Whore?
Day. Appreciate your service, by the way, brother.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. So, and he's so right on with that, and I love
volunteers. We appreciate all you.
Yeah. All you veterans out there who've done your time for your country, man, we appreciate it. We honor you and all you have passed, man. There's a lot of people we can honor, and there's a lot of amazing veterans out there, and there's a lot of amazing people who support veterans. So we appreciate all of you all, the supporters and the veterans and the spouses and the families and the dependents, everyone out there who is affiliated one way or the other, and I think we all are. Man, it's a great day to celebrate. So, man, great answer. Danny, you bring it, man. You bring fire. You always do. Folks, I encourage you, folks, I say it again, but if you're at the next convention, I promise you cannot miss Danny speak. You'll be inspired. You'll understand the passion behind his product, and you'll see why the people are following what he's doing. He has a team of people that just absolutely are following that arrow, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about that earlier. He talked about arrows. He talked about when arrows go all over the place, it's very hard to go the same direction. It's like everybody grabbing a rope trying to do tug of war, and you're pulling to the right, left instead of just straight back. It's never going to work. No one's going to get there. You're just going to fall apart, and you're pulling and you're wasting energy that doesn't need to be wasted. It's like frequencies too, sound frequencies. Imagine a frequency is out there, right? And then you get another similar frequency and they're together. They start to get louder. It starts to get more power. It could literally, you get enough of people on that same frequency. Next thing you know, it's knocking mountains down. It's tearing everything out in its path, and it's getting to where it needs to go very loudly and very, very powerfully. I mean, you could feel.
Well said, Fred.
Sound. So, and that's what he is. Your team is on a frequency, and you need them all on that same one, tuned in together. So, I love that.
It's like a good band, right?
It is a good band. When you hear good music, you guys would understand that. I mean, seriously, that's exactly right. If you hear good music, you could take the lyrics out, but you throw lyrics on top of it that is done right. Music is so soothing. You could feel it in your body, in your bones. It's a beautiful thing, but that's exactly what your team needs to sound like. A beautiful symphony of music that just flows extremely well together, that just amplifies. So enough about that.
Loving that. But I mean, keeping the music flowing, right? And hold on. Hey,
yeah, that was a drum.
There we go. There's a little drum. But there is a lot that we would probably hype up at one of those events where you would see Danny at, especially if we're at the event. We're going to try to get things loud and proud to make sure that everybody knows how important it is that they listen to our friend Danny. And he's going to bring a big bucket of great news and hope for the industry on products that are available for them when we hand off that mic. And the things that we won't talk about when we hand off that mic are going to be some of the hard and tough lessons that Danny's had to learn. And he's already explained a couple of them. Right. But Danny, what has been the hardest lesson you've had to learn as the leader and the man that you are right now? The hardest lesson you've had to learn inside of your career in automotive thus far? It's okay. That one's a slow sipper.
It is a slow sipper. So the hardest lesson, I think, my dad's generation used to say, "Don't bring your personal life to work," and that's like, at a glance you could be like, "Cool, I get that. Leave it at home." And so then I left all my things at home, and I expected everybody else to leave their things at home. And I've had, this is super personal, but I think it's worth sharing. I was in a relationship with somebody for 10 years who ended up taking their own life. And this happened a while ago. But it was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And I also know I'm not unique, right? And I'm not immune to pain. And so when I thought about that concept of, leave your personal issues at work, I didn't agree with it. I don't agree with that thinking for my business. I think if you want the business to grow, you need the human to grow. I think if you want the perception to change, the culture has to change.
Yes.
So you can't. They're not separate. They're the same. So today, don't get me wrong. We're not too sympathetic or too unsympathetic. We're just real in that if you're dealing with something, it's you. Talk about it. If I'm dealing with something, we have to meet people where they are instead of expecting them to constantly meet us where we are, because it doesn't work that way, right? Wow. If I preach to you and say, Fred, you got to be this way, you're going to be like, who are you to tell me that? But if I share what I'm going through, you might align with a few of those things and say, yep, been there, or nope, haven't been there yet, but I can picture that. And that's it. I mean, that's really it. It's checking your ego and continuing to meet people where they are. And that's the biggest lesson, because that is scalable. In business, in life, in relationships, in friendships, that is scalable. Yes. What's not scalable is expecting others to be perfect. That's not scalable. They can't leave their stuff at home.
Amen.
So that's the hardest lesson.
Danny, I love that lesson, and I love what you just said there. You're right. We come from a culture. We were trained. I remember getting in this business. You leave, you walk in that door, and when you do, become an actor, right? It's what you always hear. I don't care how many issues you have at home. When you get here, you're smiling and it's showtime, right? But you're so right, though, man. Being a leader is beyond just people coming and performing and doing their job. Being a leader is caring about your people, truly knowing what's going on. How do you coach somebody if you don't allow them to tell you what their real issues are? How do you coach somebody when they can't be themselves around you? They're just trying to mimic you. And like you said, no one is the same. You can't expect people to know what you know, to act like you act, and to be like you are. It's never going to happen. Matter of fact, that would suck. I don't want people around me. I would totally be annoyed by Fred Lenartz everywhere around me. I'd be like, okay, enough of you. Get around, right? There's enough just for me. We need Fred, we need Danny, we need Lou, we need Zach, we need all these different people to be different in order for us to grow. We need to be able to encourage them, to allow them to have pain, to let that pain out, and us listen to them. For us to give them our experiences in life, not tell them how to do it, but say, this is what I went through. This is how I went through it. But how are you able to do that if you ask your team, if you ask your teammates to say, hey, when you show up, I don't want to know any of your issues. I don't care about none of them. All that matters is us moving units. All that matters is us helping sell this software. No, that doesn't work that way. You will have a team that resents coming to work, a team that cannot be who they are. And when you're not who you are, you're never going to reach your fullest potential. The biggest thing we all want to do is be the greatest version of ourselves. I don't want to be the greatest version of Danny. I don't want to be the greatest version of you. I want to be the greatest version of Fred. That's right. And as a leader, you have to allow your team to be the same way. Let them be who they want to be. Just because we're leaders doesn't mean we get to do whatever we want. We can't, and they can't. Right? We have to allow everybody to do that. But we lead them into that. We show them how to lead one day. So when it's their turn to be in our seats, they do the same thing. Danny just said he knows his father generation. That generation is We've been there. We're slightly part of that generation, and we've seen that. We've seen the way that was. It was different. It was a whole lot different, but the world was different. The world was way colder. There was a Cold War going on. Literally, they left the country because of things like that, right? You think about that, folks. People, think about that. Think about what he just said there. I love that. Danny, that was an amazing answer. That's exactly a great lesson to learn, and that's something that I had to learn. You know, I remember it took me a long time. I used to get so frustrated with my staff, and then I realized, stop expecting them to be you.
Well,
and when I changed everything.
You're exactly. And that's the. I mean, I think that's where the secret is. It's like I could hide that I was gay, right? But people can't hide that they're black. People can't hide that they're Hispanic. People can't hide that there's certain attributes that they can't and they shouldn't hide. That's the lesson, right? Be yourself and continue to grow yourself. And when you can't, know that there are people around you that will help you grow. I used to wonder, I really like mentors. It's really important to me. I look for mentors. I'm inspired by people who have a personal freedom and are kind of always reaching. And so I want to be around those people as much as possible, which is, I think, why we're friends, because you guys do that. When you reach kind of the end of what you know, just remember there's so much more out there, and people want to give, people want to teach, people want to share. Just believe in that. And that will open so many doors. I used to question why do they want to mentor me? Like, what's in it for them? Do they have an ulterior motive? Like, what's their intention? And when I stopped questioning that, and just let it, I mean, it's human, right? All of a sudden, like I had a new filter on the world, and so that's the way I live. And I hope that characteristic of mine bleeds over into other people that are around me, because that's how we scale.
And I believe that it is, and I love that he keeps dropping that, folks. You listen to the business mind of this man, keeps dropping how to scale, right? He keeps saying these are things that you can scale, you can measure, and you can find a way to increase. One thing that I do love is, of course, how it is you keep pointing to meeting people where they are. And you're part of the Run Club, right? Anytime you're out here at an event, right, you're going to jump in with everybody else, everybody getting their sneakers on, going for their runs in the morning. And that, again, takes me back to military and the flow that's inside of that. When you have an entire, whether it's a platoon, a battalion, or a big troop that's running together, right? Everybody's running. You may go the 3 miles, you may go the 10 miles. By the time you're done running, you don't even really know how far you went. You're called in cadence. You're on that frequency. You're getting in step. But sometimes people start to straggle. Sometimes the rear end starts to get a little further and further apart. The spacing gets longer. Eventually, there has to be the point where a leader then makes the determination that we're going to turn this entire company of people around, run up the street, run back around those that are falling behind, and then come back up so that they can line back up with the rest of the troop. The leader is meeting them where they are. And getting them grafted back in and back in step with everybody else, because everybody completing the run together is what's the important thing. Not that one person gets to the end, but that we get to the end and that we are unified. Though we may be all different people, it's the diversity that actually brings the unification. When we have more and more and more together that are different yet unified. Focused, seeing together, clear vision, right? Division, the root of it is which is dual, right? Two different visions. That's where division comes in when we're looking at two different things, when we're aimed in two different directions. But if we can find the way to realign ourselves by going back to where we are and saying, hey, we're still going someplace, we're going to get in step together, and let's go ahead and finish running this out. You can accomplish incredibly great things, and you're doing that right now. And even with your product, you're meeting dealers where it is that they are now. Not that, hey, guess what? I found a way to compete with big competitors inside of my market. Got it. Good luck to all of y'all. I'm going to go do my thing. And you would definitely be valued sitting right where it is that you are inside of your store. But you're meeting dealers where they are. Wherever they end up, whatever convention it is that they end up, you're meeting them there with a solution, something that they can use to then scale up their business, the level that they do business inside of the market. And I love it because it really brings a unification to the automotive industry that says, look, if I have something and you need it, I want to make sure you have it. Yes. Right? I want to make sure that you get it. And because we all should have access to the same tools that we're willing to pay for. Now, just because the tools are out there doesn't mean people are willing to pay for it, right? There's some mechanic shops that have the best tools in the market, and they don't have a mechanic in there, right? Sometimes that doesn't always work. But when you put great people with great tools together, you make incredible things happen, and it is so important that we do meet each other where we are, whether the people that we're leading, the people that we're speaking to as vendors to dealers, or it's really, right, I don't understand why you think the way you think. But I'm going to try to see it from your vantage point, understand that your vantage point has value, and that I can walk away with the value I have, and trust that your value has value for someone, but
that's right.
I love that.
Can I add to that one topic?
Please, this is your show, Danny. Cool. Whatever you want to throw in there.
So I Googled something the other day, and the question was, how many cars did Carvana buy last year? And the answer was 203,000. And so when I saw that, I was like, that's a big number. And specifically, how many did they buy from the public? Sorry, let me preface that. So 203,000. Well, then I said, let's take that number here. I actually got my calculator on me. So 203,000 in 12 months is almost 17,000 cars a month. Then I divide that by, call it 50 states. That's only 338 cars a month per state. The office next to me is buying over 100 cars a month directly from the public. And inventory is the way that we continue to stay in business, right? If we have nothing to sell, then we have no way to stay in business. And as dealers, what I think the gift that Vroom, Carvana, CarMax, others like that are giving the auto industry is the opportunity, A, to unify as a dealer body, to know that we can lean up. Generation didn't do that as much. We all felt like we were living on an island. But now we can unify and say, what are you guys doing to win? How are you eliminating friction from the automotive experience? How are you scaling your company, right? How are you dealing with acquisition? How are you buying cars and eliminating third parties like auctions and expensive dealer networks and getting back to the foundation of why we exist, which is to do business in our communities and serve a purpose. That is what that's right, speaks to my mission. I hope you can see that in me. So you just got to be curious to the question. That's how you eliminate fear. Be curious to the question, and then it's not so scary. I was by the way, this is a total pivot, but I was super afraid of flying, by the way. Like, hated flying. Getting on an airplane was like the worst. So the only way I knew I could overcome the fear is I took flying lessons. I spent like $800. Wow. I bought like 4 flying lessons, and when I learned how to fly, like I didn't go crazy on it, but I learned the mechanics of it, and I learned it's not so scary. Like there are actually things that keeping this plane afloat. That's the same concept here. Is we don't have to imagine that they have some witch's brew across the street that's making them successful. We have the ability to be successful if we are curious to the question and start being innovative within our own dealerships.
I love that. What you just said there, folks, if you don't know if you heard that, if you feel you have a fear in something, 99% of the time, matter of fact, probably 100% of the time, it's the fear of the unknown. You just don't know. You're scared of flying, but he just didn't understand the way the mechanics worked in flying. He went and educated himself on that, and he eliminated so much of that doubt of flight. And that's what it takes. Just like starting your own business, just like going and catching the first up you ever catch, just like the first time that as a child we walk. All these things, as we educate and we learn and we get better at it, it becomes easier. I remember the first time I had to do multiplication tables. Boy, that was a nightmare. And I had to learn how to do that, and I learned, and now I do it like it's nothing, right? Finance manager, subprime hero over here, right? But it's facts. You know, you've grown a lot. You've been through so much, Danny, you know, and you really have done a great job of using your resources and making value with it, right? You've learned lessons. You've made mistakes, but you've also gained from those things because you learned, and that's the key. There's no really loss in failure as long as you learn something and you try again and you keep going and you become better. Out of all these things that you've done, we've talked about your why, we got deep in that. We talked about what kept you in this business and what motivates you and what drives you in this business. We talked about the people along the way. We talked about failures. We talked about things that we've learned. What has been your greatest reward, Danny, for everything that you've done up to today?
My family. My family. Thanks, man. I have an incredible husband named Reed who does incredible. He's building his own castle. Meaning in his career, he does just incredible work. He's an amazing father. I've got 8-year-old boys, and I can't. Somebody told me this one time, and I didn't believe it. But choosing your partner in life, your husband, your wife, is really important. It's really, really, really important. Choosing the right person, because that person can either keep you down or lift you up. They can be no different than a business partner or an employee that is afraid of you growing. If they're afraid of you growing, you're going to question yourself and say, maybe I do need to stay small. But when you have a partner in life that celebrates your success and you celebrate theirs, no different than employees and culture and all those things, then you wake up, and you guys know this feeling, like anything's solvable. The world's your oyster, right? You can literally accomplish anything. And it doesn't have to be, huge acts of kindness or whatever. It just has to be, it's all the little stuff of trust and believing in each other and faith and those things. And then you end up, like you come home and you get to share that with the people that you love the most. And then they're proud of you. And what greater gift is there than that? It's not about the money. It's about the mission. Sorry, I'm using a lot of comparisons here, but there's no destination. I mean, we're living it right now. Like this is it. How do you feel now? Because
the journey.
This is the journey, right? I don't want to arrive. Boring.
We never do.
We're here. We're going.
When you arrive, it's over. You want to. The fun is the ride. The fun is that, like, the journey. And you're so right. I love how you compared that. That's exactly right, folks. Quit worrying about where you're going. Well, you want to be focused on what you're doing, but the fun of it all is doing the job to get there. Taking the moments with your family, your friends, your teammates, getting on a show like this, going and doing something that stretches you out, makes you uncomfortable along your ride, right? Those memories that you put together is what you're going to remember.
That's right.
Whether you make it to the end of that journey and you accomplish all the goals, who said that the other day? Was it talk about targets? But that was Shaka Dyson.
Shaka Dyson
talked about no goals. You have targets. And he's right. And I get his point behind that. But when you're going towards that and you're looking at these targets, it's fun to go towards that target, shoot towards that target.
It is. I was listening to a interview with Elon Musk the other day, and they asked him a question of what are you most concerned about with your kids? And I was like, well, this will be interesting. And his answer was that they won't struggle enough. And I go, interesting.
Dang, that's deep.
Because as a dad, obviously I want to protect my kids, but having two dads, right? They have to come out. They have to they're different just by existing, right? Sure. And so we certainly help them with language or understanding, but they get to figure out how to show up in the world, and we help them along that journey. And it's no different, again, with your team members, because your mission and vision in life is what drives your culture, which what drives your perception. Same. I mean, literally, this is a human experience we're all living, and it's all connected.
That's so amazing. Danny, you are just you are every category that I consider a solutionary. You lead with love. You have honor in your heart. You have faith in everything that you do with your team, your family. You're adaptable because you're constantly evolving and you're changing, and you do this all consistently. So you are truly a certified solutionary. And my friend, we love you. We appreciate everything that you do, the way you support us as a team also. You show us love, but you have a beautiful product, folks. VINCUE. Once again, you need to reach out to Fred at carguycoffee.com or Lou at carguycoffee.com, or you can get a hold of Danny at dealerq.com, and he is all over it. He's there to help you. He's got a great team. And Danny, if you guys ever need somebody to motivate you, pop on anything he's ever put out there, man. He's got so much inspiration, and even when he talks about his product, it's inspirational because you can see it's a labor of love. And putting it together and being able to share it to the world, share it to automotive, and show other dealers, hey, you don't have to rely on all these old resources that you've been using for 30 years. I got something new, and that works extremely well. And it really doesn't even cost that much in comparison to how much money you can make and how much you can help your community and help yourself to help your community. And man, it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Sue. We appreciate it. It has been an incredibly great show. And thank you, everybody else that has been participating on whatever platform you've been getting this on. And if you are listening to this on the podcast, please make sure that you tell somebody about the solutionary that's in here, that we want to make sure the whole world understands how incredible they are of an individual, that we're going to let the whole world know that Danny Zaslavsky is 100%
CGC approved. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Let's go. You know the deal. Man, this was such a good show. I really felt like we got so deep. I know a lot about Danny already. We've had great conversations. Like I mentioned, when I got to meet him, we hit it off right at the top, man. He made me laugh. He's got a great personality, folks. If you get to meet him in person, he's very witty, extremely intelligent, and it's a great conversation to have. But, we're honored to have you here, man, and to be able to hear more of you, hear about your past, where you came from, how you did it, more about your father and how he started the business. That stuff is inspirational to me, man, just to hear that. There's so many great stories of immigrants coming here to this country, and like you said at the very beginning of the show, they saw the hustling and bustle, and they wanted to be part of it. They wanted to be part of that excitement of the United States, that potential to have whatever you wanted here. That was the worldview on us, and that's why a lot of people came here and they participated. Why don't we participate as American citizens that have been born here? Most of us don't even understand that we can participate. Participate, my friends. Follow Danny's lead and do your best. Be the best version of you and go out and share with other people and love on everyone else, because it's the only thing that you can do. You can just do those things, and I promise you that is a recipe for success. You guys go after it. Make sure you have a why. Make sure you have people along the way. Make sure you're helping people along the way, because the more you give, folks, the more you're going to get. And I promise you, it will come back to you tenfold, and you won't even be asking for it. It just happens. And I know that Danny is definitely a direct reflection of that, because look at him. He is.
Look at that guy.
Everything he's putting out there tenfold, and he deserves it because he's doing the right things. No one's perfect, though. Don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. Lou's not perfect. Danny's not perfect, but we try to be the best versions of ourselves. And it's okay not to be perfect, my friends. It's great to not be perfect, because if we all were perfect, how freaking boring would that be? That'd be the same thing as like no diversity, right? If everyone was perfect, it'd be a boring room of conversation. Like, hey, what are you doing? I'm just perfect. Thanks. You're perfect too, bro. Cool. We'll see you later. That's it. I'm just saying, it would be very boring. So I'm so glad that we're together and we're all trying to be the best versions of ourselves, because that's where the fun's at. So I love you, Danny, man. We appreciate you for having you on the show. Is there any last words you want to say before we get out of here today?
We gotta do a forgive, focus, and fly one last time.
Let's do it, bro. Let's do it.
Well, thank you so much for everybody that's been participating today. This has been an incredible show with an incredible guest and a solutionary at heart. We are so thankful for the opportunity to be brewing with the best. I am Lou Ramirez, the car guy.
And I'm Fred Lenartz, the subprime hero.
And we're about to apply these 3 F's so we can keep growing with the one, the only, Danny Zaslavsky. On 3, everybody. Let's finish the show off right. 1, 2, 3.
Forgive.
Forgive.
Focus. Fly. And keep growing. Keep growing.
That's right.
Growing.
Keep checking us out, folks. CarGuyCoffee.com. Thank you so much for getting this day started with us, Danny. We love you. We appreciate you. And, man, this has been a great show. Share it around, everybody. We out.